Hey guys, what's up? Today's daily financial market news. Most markets are more positive on the back of quite a quiet weekend, however, with trade talks improving and reports suggesting that the US-China trade talks are actually progressing much more than initially anticipated. This had quite a big move on the market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average reached new all-time highs. This was followed along with the S&P 500 reaching all new all-time highs, and also with Nasdaq 100 remaining really strong. Also, in terms of the European equities, we saw FTSE and the German DAX climb more than 1.3% across the board. This came on the back of more upbeat tones in the European session after the Asia Pacific session. In the actual Asia Pacific session, things were quite mixed, to be fair. The ASX 200 was up a little, 0.3% on the day. Also, the Hang Seng was up 1.3%, but probably the biggest question mark will be how the Nikkei 225 will open up tomorrow after it was closed today for a cultural holiday. In terms of equities, things were quite positive in the equity sphere. Apple climbed more than 1.5%. Nvidia and Facebook also climbed more than 1.5% on the day. The most interesting aspect was probably Facebook. Illustrated on the chart in front of us, you can see that the equity struggled to break above the 195 barrier last week. However, after pulling back towards 191, it rallied higher. This is really supportive, and it could mean a big move higher coming on the back of this initial surge higher. Also in the commodity sphere, things are more positive as you would expect. The oil was much more impressive today than it had been last week after it fell more than 3% last week. However, this week, with more reports of potential cuts coming from OPEC's December meeting, things could look more upbeat and positive for the oil market. Today's session, the WTI and Brent crude both climbed more than 1% on the day. Also in the session, we saw copper up a little, 0.4% on the day, with more upbeat tones in the market. Also, we saw natural gas climbing more than 3.5%. This is quite a key mover, given that last week the commodity climbed more than 12% on the back of more demand and supply positive tones in the market. Also, quite of interest was gold, a little undecided this week with a lack of clear direction. On one side, we have the Fed cuts coming up potentially for December and also going into next year. However, on the other side, we have the issue of being overcrowded and a potential move lower needs to be done in a corrective phase. Looking at bond yields, things were more upbeat today as you would expect, with the equities and indices remaining more upbeat. In today's session, the US 10-year yield and 2-year were more positive, climbing up on the day more than 2% across the board. Also in the session, we saw the German yields up 10% in the 10-year yield, but a little quiet in the 2-year yield. Also, the GBP UK yields saw quite a positive move today. This came on the back of last week where they were absolutely hammered down, falling more than 10%. Today they climbed 5% across the board. Also, finally, not forgetting is the FX sphere. Things were quite mixed and upbeat today in terms of the US dollar. However, for the other currencies such as the pound and euro, things were a little more negative. For instance, the pound dollar was down 30 points towards the 129 level. This will be quite interesting to watch, illustrated in the chart in front of us. You can see that there is a clear issue of contention with the elections now posed for December 12th. Illustrated, you can see that the chart looks like it needs a little corrective phase towards the 126, 127 range. This will be quite key to watch going into the election and also with the polls coming out this week. Also looking at the euro dollar, it was a little negative but nothing of significance. Also looking at the US dollar Japanese yen, it was up and buoyant on the day, climbing more than 28 points on the back of more upbeat tones in the market. Finally, but not forgetting, is the US dollar Chinese yuan, which fell 150 points on the day as the US dollar kind of weakened in this sense, but this is more to do with the correlation with the more upbeat tones in the market, and when this happens, the US dollar tends to weaken against the Chinese yuan. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much and have a great day.